I'm your host, Aaron Dykes, on the InfoWars Nightly News. Now, we talked before about the escalating police state, and unfortunately, there's just more and more evidence of it. As we go into that, I want to remind you in our daily quote of the words of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and that is that those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. And we turn now to our news and see that this is in fact surely happening, because new microchip knows your location to within centimeters. That's on new smartphones, a new chip they're going to be putting in there. Forget the chip on your forehead.
Regardez-moi ça. Ah, il est beau, il n'y a pas à dire. L'orgueil du Troisième Reich. Le brave sergent café au lait qui porte le petit déjeuner à ses hommes. Oh. La race des seigneurs qu'ils appellent ça. Eh ben, mon cochon.
Au fond de la nuit, il ne faut jamais désespérer. Gardons notre foi intacte, inébranlable. Pour chacun de nous, la délivrance approche.
Les Français parlent aux Français. Voici notre 8e bulletin d'information. Veuillez écouter tout d'abord quelques messages personnels.
So we'll do the same format. It'll be 3 minutes and then time for questions. We'll start with Mr. Chaitkin.
Anton Chaitkin. I'm a historian and the history editor for Executive Intelligence Review. President Obama has put in place a reform apparatus reviving the euthanasia of Hitler Germany in 1939 that began the genocide there. The apparatus here is to deny medical care to elderly, chronically ill, and poor people, and thus save, as the president says, $2 to $3 trillion by taking lives considered not worthy to be lived, as the Nazi doctors said. Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel and other avowed cost-cutters on this panel also lead a propaganda movement for euthanasia headquartered at the Hastings Center, of which Dr. Emanuel is a fellow. They shape public opinion and the medical profession to accept a death culture such as the Washington state law passed in November to let physicians help kill patients whose medical care is now rapidly being withdrawn in the universal health disaster. Dr. Emanuel's movement for bioethics and euthanasia and this council's purpose directly continue the eugenics movement that organized Hitler's killing of patients and then other costly and supposedly unworthy people. Dr. Emanuel wrote last October 12th that a crisis, war, and financial collapse would get the frightened public to accept the program. Hitler told Dr. Brandt in 1935 that the euthanasia program would have to wait until the war began to get the public to go along. Dr. Emanuel wrote last year that the Hippocratic Oath should be junked. Doctors should no longer just serve the needs of the patient. Hoche and Binding, the German eugenicists, exactly said the same thing to start the killing. You on the council are drawing up the procedures list to be used to deny care, which will kill millions if it goes ahead in the present world crash. You think perhaps the backing of powerful men, financiers, will shield you from accountability, but you are now in the spotlight. Disband this council and reverse the whole course of this Nazi revival now.
Thank you. A quick break. I'm going to ask for questions and comments. Ms. Zuckerman, if you can come up, and I'm opening it up to the panel.
And you'll...
Yes, we're still going to, Ms. Williams, you're still going to get to talk. I'm going to ask Ms. Zuckerman to come up and join you. We're going to take a quick stop in the panel to open it up for comments or questions, because we have a few folks who have to potentially go. The whole transcript will be available, though, and all comments will be shared with all council members.
I apologize that I have to go back to an important meeting. I do want to just clarify one thing about my own, since my reputation has been besmirched here, is I think I do have a very long record of writing against the legalization of euthanasia. So the association of me and that seemed a little strange, given, I don't know, at least 30 years or 25 years of writing on the topic against the legalization. So just to clarify the record for everyone in the room. Thank you.
Can we...
No. That you're opposed to assisted suicide, but that you are in favor of the withdrawal of medical care, which accomplishes the same thing. So you had this article with Margaret Mack, who is an accomplished...
So, sir, it's not a... your statement was read into the record. It's not the time for debate, but we appreciate your comments. And we apologize for the break in the panel, but we just wanted to have that break.
I wonder who won.
That if you think about some of the forces that have been at work thinking that they were going to make use of somebody like Barack Obama as an instrument for achieving their globalist objectives and their world regime objectives and all, I think even those folks are starting to repent of this choice, because he is moving in directions and in a precipitous fashion that I think has roused a headwind of opposition.
I believe that Barack Obama has succeeded. I don't think it'll be to his benefit, but I think he has succeeded in getting the American people involved in the political process. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that. I would also have to say, Stan, that you know that I stand back for the most part and look at this picture, including Obama's role in it, in terms of the larger forces that are at work now, trying to overturn the American experiment in self-government, trying to take the clock back globally toward the era of elite oligarchic domination of mankind, to undo the hope that this nation is supposed to represent. But I think that if you think about some of the forces that have been at work thinking that they were going to make use of somebody like Barack Obama as an instrument for achieving their globalist objectives and their world regime objectives and all, I think even those folks are starting to repent of this choice, because he is moving in directions and in a precipitous fashion that I think has roused a headwind of opposition. That if you think about some of the forces that have been at work thinking that they were going to make use of somebody like Barack Obama as an instrument for achieving their globalist objectives and their world regime objectives and all, I think even those folks are starting to repent of this choice, because he is moving in directions and in a precipitous fashion that I think has roused a headwind of opposition. That if you think about some of the forces that have been at work thinking that they were going to make use of somebody like Barack Obama as an instrument for achieving their globalist objectives and their world regime objectives and all, I think even those folks are starting to repent of this choice, because he is moving in directions and in a precipitous fashion that I think has roused a headwind of opposition from the American people that for their purposes is actually counterproductive. And I think that that's going to be telling as well in terms of both his political future and the ultimate political fate of his tenure, his occupancy in the White House. I would have to tell you that I think one of the symptoms of what has occurred and what you've talked about, the reaction of the people, but one that is deeply serious and that I think involves something that every American ought to be waking up to and concerned about, is what is represented now by the high-level military officer who has come forward and said he's going to refuse orders until there is proper verification that Obama is eligible to serve as president. I think that the majority now of Americans who've looked at this issue have decided, no, you got to come forward. This is bad for the Constitution. It's bad for the country. I am certain that a large number of people in our military look at it that way and scratch their heads wondering how he can take the same oath they do and yet show such contempt for the clear, explicit requirements of the Constitution of the United States. And here we have somebody willing to lay his career on the line in order to step forward and try to get at the truth on behalf of the country and his fellow members of the armed services. And I think it defeats the deep seriousness with which Americans of all stripes and backgrounds are starting to regard the devastating impact that this Obama faction is having now and threatens to have on the future of our whole way of life.
This whole damn thing is about oil. Wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Don't turn for a moment. Put your thumb in front of the hammer. Release it slowly. Set down the gun on the desk. Don't move. You were quite good, Condor. Imagine this. This move was predictable. Touch anything except the chair?
You're working for the company.
Yes. The lamp?
Jesus, they took you back.
Just for this. Flatwood.
How? He's with the company. Why?
I don't interest myself in why. I think more often in terms of when. Sometimes where. Always how much. I suspect it was about to become an embarrassment. Yes, you are.
So you're not finished?
I'm? Oh, no, I have no arrangement with the company except you. They didn't know you'd be here. I knew you'd be here.
Send the mail home.
That was a business arrangement with Atwood. You see?
Many men are here to stay. Many men won't see the sun. said, when it ends, the longest day, the longest day, the longest day, this will
that if you think about some of the forces that have been at work, thinking that they were going to make use of somebody like Barack Obama as an instrument for achieving their globalist objectives, their world review objectives, I think even those folks are starting to repent of this. So, because he is moving in direction, in a precipitous fashion that I think has roused the head of opposition from the American people that for their purposes is actually counterproductive.
שלום.
95 מלא.
אוקיי.
תגיד, זה לא מסוכן שאתה מעשן ככה?
בן אדם צריך למות מתישהו. חוץ מזה היום אני לא דופק חשבון. היום יום הולדת שלי. מזל טוב, מוני. תודה רבה, תודה רבה. שימו את זה פה. תודה רבה, אבנה, תודה רבה. רוצה תוסף לדלק?
בסדר, שיהיה, כן.
טוב. יש פה סדק בפייה. צריך לתקן את זה, אני לא רוצה שהדלק ישפריץ לי בנעליים.
הלו?
הלו, תיזהרי עם טלפון נייד, זה מסוכן. יכול בום, פתאום, כל התחנה. סרפסקינם.
Did you know that if you play selected portions of Barack Obama's speeches backwards, you can hear the real truth about him? Which is, of course, that he has pledged himself to Satan. It's true. Did you know that if you play selected portions of Barack Obama's speeches backwards, you can hear the real truth about him? Which is, of course, that he has pledged himself to Satan. It's true. Has to be. I saw it on the YouTube.